Before the discovery of bronze, man used stone. When 6,000 years ago he used his fire to melt tin and copper ore, he had the metal, bronze. Bronze could be hammered without breaking, and melted it could be shaped at will. So rapid was the exploitation of this new discovery that by the middle of the second millennium before Christ, bronze technology had been perfected, and bronze was being used for sculpture, jewelry, for utensils, tools, weapons, as money, and as an offering to the gods. Foundrymen today still employ a bronze metallurgy which is essentially similar to that practiced by the Mesopotamians 2,500 years before Christ. If nothing has been learned since that time, much has been forgotten and learned again. For once melted, the metal bronze, like a river, has flowed continuously from that age to this. Each time, each civilization through which the river has passed has only channeled the metal and, to the best of its ability, given it a form to fit a particular purpose and need. In a valley near Florence, Italy, Bruno Biazzi, a bronze caster for 45 years, lives in his 11th century tower. Mr. Biazzi is an acknowledged authority on bronze alloys, casting, diseases and cures, and is consultant to museums and governments in Europe, the Mediterranean, and North America.
Well, now you could ask me, do you like the metal? I tell you, I like the metal very much. Because we craftsmen, we believe that we have in our power something which become from the gods. We can use the fire, we can use the metal, we can do what we want with fire and metal. Metal can be composed as we want. We can transform the metal too, hardening, annealing, chiseling, patterning, make it old, make it react. The metal is something which we have in our vein, in our blood. That is the wonderful side of the metal, but in the same time, metal has a revenge because it produces fumes, it produces poisons. And after a long time, as I did in 45 years, casting metal and breathing metal fumes, we are a little poisoned.
Here is the well-known statue of St. Ludovic by Donatello, but really represents the King Louis XII of France, who left the crown and ran in a convent as a monk. And then it has been appointed a bishop. We found a document stating that Donatello should be paid 3,000 gold florins for his artistry, not for the expenses, for the art only, for the statue, not including the gilding. That was the key which helped us in order to discover if this statue belongs or not to Donatello. Because the Baroque style of draperies, you see, they are not Gothic style. They are very, very disturbing. They are very too much movement. And people, they said, oh no, this is not Donatello. We have restored the statue. And we found that the statue was divided in 14 pieces. That is, the gown, one side of the mantle, the other side, this one, that one, the head, the middle, this is separate. The three angels, they are separate too. This one is fastened over here. And we have this small piece here which we can take off, and this one too. How was Donatello able to realize this very difficult job? Donatello modeled first a new figure representing the statue, maybe including the head. Then he prepared some wax sheet so thick, and he started to dress the figure. Everything was molded in wax. He discovered again, without knowing, the system used by Greek foundry men and artists in the 3rd century BC. The statue has been cut by the method which we call lost wax. Lost wax process means if you have a hand in wax and you invest all around the hand with a special sand and you bake it, that mold we call, the wax goes away, burns, and leaves a space inside the mold. If you pour the bronze, melted bronze, in the mold, you have a perfect reproduction of the wax. I believe that Donatello was the first sculptor who, technically speaking, and artistically too, realized the new sculpture, the Renaissance sculpture, by modeling a statue which was very far from the primitive Gothic line. When Donatello modeled the wall statue, the craftsman probably cut the waxes in separate pieces. He cut each piece separately, there are 14. Then they start the cleaning of the bronze and the assembly. After that, they disassemble again the statue and they gild each part. During the assembly, Donatello saw that the statue was not upright, was not standing very well, was a little slow. Because the shrinking of the metal, because the distortion during the pouring, so the statue results so, and the head bended on the left side. You can see that he cut from here, the beginning, all around the shoulder. He lifted that side, and here we have it more than 1 inch, 1 inch and 1/4. He prepared a lot of undercut, which we call dovetail, and he poured the metal after having prepared some special sand inside and outside. He poured the metal. The metal runs all around, penetrates in the dovetail, fastened bronze, and shrinking, he fastened it absolutely. It was not visible at the beginning, but after so many centuries, the corrosion penetrated between because it was not welded and expanded a little, and now you can see exactly how Donatello worked. This statue, I believe, is a proof that Donatello was one of the most great artists in the Renaissance.
At the bronze foundry, a mold is made of the object which is to be cast. Hot beeswax is poured and a thin layer allowed to form on the inner surface of the mold. The mold is removed, leaving a hollow reproduction of the original model in wax. Plaster is poured into the hollow to form a core. On the outside surface of the wax, layers of plaster, called an investment, are built up, sandwiching the wax between an inner core and these outer investments. A brick and clay oven is then constructed around the investment. During the baking, the wax runs out through specially prepared channels called vents. When the wax runs out, it leaves a space between the core and investment into which the bronze will be poured. Hardwood is still used because it heats the oven slowly. As the temperature rises, the plaster dries before the wax begins to run. After the baking, the oven is broken down and the investments are packed in sand contained by an iron frame. The sand prevents the molten metal from escaping through the vents.
Anyway, in the art foundry, we cannot arrange our equipment as in a commercial foundry, because we must handle the metal as we want. We can pick off the metal from the oven, and we have no pyrometer to judge the temperature. It is our experience which judge the right temperature, because I must consider how the metal must be hot, more or less in proportion to the figure which I must cast. When we pour the metal, we must be there, because we must go in a hurry or slowly according to the shape of the figure. Therefore, we are working with the metal almost in our hands.
Bronze, an alloy of copper, tin, and lead, is poured through a gate in the base of the investment. It fills the space left by the wax and runs out the vents until it is stopped by the sand. After the bronze has cooled, the investments are broken open and the metal that remained in the gate and vents is clipped off and filed down. The surface of the bronze is then checked for flaws in the casting, chased and finished.
Where is the birthplace of the antique metallurgy? We suppose that the starting point is on the 42nd parallel in the country which we call Mesopotamia.
From Mesopotamia, bronze spread to China, Egypt, Europe, Scandinavia, and the Mediterranean. Since few geographical areas had both metal and technology, trade began. Skilled bronze workers traveled to ore-producing centers, forging objects to suit the needs and tastes of their customers while introducing ideas of their own. Bronze could do much that stone could not. It could be poured, cast, hammered, could be made harder, softer, thick or thin to fill a particular need. This Roman parade helmet was not used in combat. Therefore, the bronze is thin and light. The animal figures were cast, but the rest of the helmet was hammered from bronze sheets and riveted together. If Mesopotamia was the watershed of the river of bronze, Greece and Rome were the delta formed by the diverging currents of east and west. By conquest, the Greeks and Romans had inherited 3,000 years of technology and experience. But when Rome fell, the waters were dispersed, and the link to the source lost in the meandering of smaller streams.
People, they went to Rome all over the world, and they met together, Egyptian people, Greek people, Indian people too, and they blended together their knowledge, and they made some wonderful masterpieces. So well made, technically speaking, that today we are not able to do the same.
That horse's head is Greek. You see, they have no eyes, because on the time, the eyes they were made in white and brown stone. And we can distinguish a Roman from a Greek bronze statue also through the alloy, because Greek people, they use about 8% tin. The Roman statue, they contain 15, 20, 25% lead. We must consider that tin metal was a very precious one, because Roman people, they were warriors, and they want to have daggers, swords. Therefore, the Roman people, they state that for statues, bronze should be made with lead instead of tin. Here you can see that the statue is Greek because they are hollow. The statue represents Minerva. Has been found near Arezzo in Tuscany in 1554. And it belongs to the 3rd century BC. You see that all the ornaments which are on the breast has been molded in wax. You see the eyes. This is not Greek. This is Etruscan, Roman Etruscan. This statue, technically speaking,
belong to a time, a century, which is between Greek and the Roman. And the alloy of the metal is not Greek, is not Roman. This statue has been made in 2nd, 3rd century BC and 15th century before Donatello. You see here they are the legs which has been cut, separated and then welded together. Here inside the leg is 4 or 5 inches longer, and you cannot see it, and you can see how thin is the bronze casting. The casting is very more progressive because those people, those foundry men, they had a very, very long experience. Today would be almost impossible, or at least very difficult, to make another copy like this one, so thin, so light.
With the fall of Rome, the ability to cast large bronzes was lost and had to be learned again. The revival began with the casting of cannon, bells, and cathedral doors, like these of San Zeno, bronze plaques nailed to a wooden frame. The first all-bronze door to be cast by an Italian since Roman times was the door of Andrea Pisano, set in place on the baptistry of Florence in 1336. Pisano's casters experienced many difficulties in the casting. During the pouring, portions of the metal failed to fuse, and as a result, the door was partially cracked. The crack was repaired, but was reopened and extended during the flood of 1966.
The thickness of the door, the minimum thickness of the door is about 1 inch. Tremendous weight. We cannot realize how in 1330 they were able to obtain some very large pouring of metal. Here, the crack run, and you can see that ornament has been broken. Here they are, the copper rivet, square copper rivet, riveted by hammer and chisel. As the door, they move because the wave of the flood, this frame got broken.
The back was chiseled in order to fit the panel to the smooth surface of the frame. Almost 70 years after Pisano's door was set in place, a competition was held to select an artist to cast a second door for the baptistry, then called the Cathedral of St. John. Each artist was to submit a sketch in bronze, a panel, the composition of which was to be similar to those of the Pisano door. On the right is the sketch of Lorenzo Ghiberti. On the left, one by the architect Filippo Brunelleschi. With this sketch, Ghiberti won the competition. He was 23. Years later, and an old man, Ghiberti was commissioned to do his second door for the cathedral.
Give to Lorenzo Ghiberti the second door for the St. John Cathedral, which must be the richest, most beautiful in the world, and don't take care of money and time. That was a wonderful contract.
The panels were chased after the casting. chased panels were then set in place in a solid bronze door frame. Donatello was in his 70s when he made this statue of St. John, and approximately 35 years had passed since the casting of the San Ludovico.
Donatello, he was an artist who came from the shop. A young boy who wants to go in the shop, he went there, no money. He had foods, suits, work, and they teach the young boy to produce for his master. At the same time, he was learning, but not on the books, on the job, on the work. Therefore, on that time, we had our master, wonderful artist, who knows everything, because they came from the beginning by experience and experience and experience.
The artist who created and the Roman foundryman who cast this equestrian figure of Marcus Aurelius in the 2nd century made use of the knowledge and experience of the past to produce, in bronze, an unsurpassed union of technology and art. Harry Bertoia is probably the first sculptor to work molten metal, and in this sculpture we can see the metal as it flowed. It was not cast, not poured into a prepared mold, but onto a bed of sand. In the 3 minutes before solidification, the sculptor began to work the bronze with long tools, raking, pushing, causing cracks in the metal while it was still in its liquid state. Bronze, created by man, is shaped by his need. He has made from it a horse, an axe, a bell, a coin.
Anyway, we craftsmen, we love the metal. And when I go in a foundry and I see the metal running, I cannot stay without go very near to the metal and touch the metal by a steel bar in order to see if the temperature is right or not and give my advices. It is the same as the cavalry horse. When it heard the trumpet, he goes. The same as the railway man, when he's retired, it goes in the railway station and see the train which leaves on arrive. This is our job, our hobby at the same time, and our life.